So one of the reasons I love making these videos or teaching is because of what's called view path food. A view path food is just a traditional way of saying, what kind of view should you have? How should you see life and how should you approach it? How should you see reality? That's basically talks about the kind of model we have about the world, and um, and the reason that's so important to have what they call the right view, but it's really just a view because the view has to evolve over time. So, if there was such a thing as a right view, it's a view that you're going to have a view of the world and you can't escape having a view. Uh, and then every time your view comes in conflict with life in a way that really doesn't suit you, is to understand that you can adjust it and have it evolve. And that's a very powerful view. And I love talking about views because it changes everything while changing nothing. If you have a different view, all of a sudden, what was once dark and one was just terrible, in that moment can transform to something that all of a sudden is life giving. And it's kind of like I was once at a funeral, and I was just feeling certain things coming through, and the people that I was with was just really just suffering from the loss. And and I had just this feeling coming through, and if you will, some people will call that like spirit, some people will call it inspiration. Who knows what it really is, right? In your experience, you could be experiencing angels, or you could be experiencing the spirit, or you could be just actually remembering something, or you could be just feeling the energy of what's there, or you could actually just be feeling the person. There are many different explanations. What I'd like to say is this, that really none of that can be proven. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that when you have those kind of experiences, allowing those experiences to come through can really be life-giving. And so when was having one of those experiences, where I felt that the person who had passed was talking to me, and it felt right to actually convey that to the person who was suffering. And same situation, but all of a sudden the person felt connected to the person who had passed. The person actually felt meaning, and in that moment, the person was grieving very differently. Now, I do want to say that grieving is very important. Grieving is not a bad thing. Sad is a very, very important emotion, and we need to be able to grieve. So, when you say things, you shouldn't say things to help people feel better. Actually, you should say things in order to help people uh, process through what they're feeling better so that they understand themselves better. But even this that I'm telling you is actually a point of view. It's a different perspective. And just understanding that can actually really change how you respond. And so anyway, so I gave that example that in that moment I helped that person understand something about the relationship they had with this person who had passed and about themselves, and actually that person actually felt really empowered to grieve properly, to really actually treasure the things that they had together, to really grieve the loss, and so on and so forth. And that was actually okay. And just like I just told you, this perspective about how grieving is important, and that you shouldn't just try and make someone feel better, but actually it's really about helping someone understand themselves better. That's also a perspective. But it can really change from trying to convince someone to feel differently to actually just listening to them and understanding that actually that's all you need to do. All of a sudden, it takes the effort away. And these different views can really change a person's life. So I love talking about the view in the view path food. And so, uh, and one such view is actually that there are only small problems. There are no such things as big problems. There are only small problems. And actually, this is a view that really changed my life. In Tai Chi, they say slow is fast. Small is great. Less is more. And it's a very Taoist way of saying, talking about things. But if you really think about it, it's actually really present in all the spiritual traditions. And what it is the simple perspective. And I feel it's really such a powerful perspective. So, however big the problem is, and big problems typically actually just means it's a complex problem, and complex means that it's a lot of small things that come together, and so there's a lot involved. And so if you take a big problem and or complex problem, you break it down, it comes to lots of small problems that are bundled together. And fact of the matter is that however big the problem is in any given moment in time, you can actually really work on one thing. So practically speaking, you only have a small problem at a time. Now, what that really means is if you are having a problem and you feel it's difficult, it's not broken down into a small enough thing you can handle. And so the secret of effortlessness, and I could make the argument that Tai Chi is the study of effortless power, and an effortless life or an effortless way of being. And it's just what it studies actually. It's not really the only thing. It's really the study of change and about yin yang, about balance and how to be in harmony. It's a way of life to live out the concepts of the Tao, or the Tao Te Ching, and so which is the way. And it's basically just means that how can you live a life that's in harmony with the universe? That's all really the concept. And if you're in harmony, the perspective is, and I'm not saying this is a right or a wrong way of looking at it, but it's a helpful perspective if this is what you're looking for, right? And the perspective is that if you're in harmony with the universe, that things are effortless because you're doing things according to the laws of the universe, or the laws of physics if you use modern day world. And if you are going against the laws of physics, I mean, well, you can't, but if you're working in such a way where you're increasing friction, if you will, and if that's what you want, it's fine. But if that's not what you want, then you're putting in a lot of effort that you don't want. And the laws of physics typically determine that most things that are alive go for efficiency and effectiveness, or if you will, efficacy, right? And so if you want to make something both efficient and effective, the best way to do it is to follow the laws of physics in such a way where it brings about efficiency and effectiveness, and that's the concept of effortlessness. So it's better to go with the direction of gravity than against, unless you have to. And in general, if you want to use less effort, it is a good idea to reduce friction, unless for some reason you want to increase friction, right? And so these are the kind of concepts. And so within this perspective, if you think about it, if something feels difficult, that means that you're probably trying to tackle too much all at the same time, right? So more on the next video.